This land isn't just in your blood. It's under your fingernails and worn with pride. It's not a job. It's your livelihood. Here, overtime is all the time. But you wouldn't have it any other way. It's written into your DNA. It's what you thrive on. And while farming will never be easy, we can make it better. Introducing the Pioneer 100 series. Meaningfully different canola hybrids.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Thursday edition of the show. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. Today's show is, of course, it's the Farmer Rapid Fire, so it's brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Let's talk about Pioneer 100 Series canola. It is the highest yielding Pioneer brand canola hybrids ever. This isn't just better canola, it's different canola. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more. That is pioneer.com/100 series. Okay, let's see who's in the lineup here today. We got a roster of wily veterans of the Farmer Rapid Fire. From Pioneer, we're going to talk to Holly Loucas. She'll be on the show here today. She's from Eastern Canada. We're going to talk about some of the things that she is seeing with the corn and bean crop as we get a little bit closer to harvest. We're also going to have Shane Strydhorst from Alberta. Matt Enns is in Saskatchewan. Steve Twynstra is also in Ontario. And Randy Tkachyk is in Manitoba. Now, if you have any feedback on today's program, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. This week with our webinar that Real Agriculture did with Cappy on Wednesday about Parliament returning and all the parliamentarians getting back to the capital city of Ottawa, wanted to ask the farmers, okay, so it's one thing we can hear from GR people and crop commissions and consultants and even the parliamentarians themselves. What do farmers want MPs to be talking about? And as Parliament returns, what are the issues that are most critical to them to be addressed? That'll be today's question of the day. And we start the Farmer Rapid Fire here, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada and Ailsa Craig, Ontario. We're talking to Steve Twynstra. How are we doing today, Steve?
Doing great, Shaun. The sun is shining. It's very low humidity out here. Not a cloud in the sky.
Nice.
And the soybeans are dry, very dry.
Oh, so it's go time.
Yeah, we fished white beans or navy beans on Saturday. Started the soybeans a couple hours ago here. There's some tofu IP and then the preserve variety, and showing 10% on the monitor right now for moisture. And when we started, they were 13.8 about 2 hours ago. And hearing some news yesterday that some guys that started yesterday on some other varieties started around that 13.8, 14 level, and they were down to 8% by the end of the day. So we are not used to seeing this kind of conditions this early in the season.
Why is it drying down so fast?
I think part of the reasoning is we've got this great high pressure sitting right over top of southwestern Ontario for the last week and a half. Actually, it would almost be most of the month of August or October or August, I believe, because we're down to about 60% of normal rainfall for the season, most of that in August. So the yields are pretty pathetic. And everything just came so fast. We've had an extremely hot summer here. And I don't know if extreme is the right word, but a normally hot summer, I should say. And with the conditions that we've had, there just hasn't been a lot of moisture, so yields are off quite a bit, and those have started. And just one of those years we're probably going to want to forget, I think. We had a great planting season, growing season. We had some nice rains early on, and then the tap turned off in late summer.
What are you thinking, like, when you look at your corn crop, what do you see? Same concern?
with a yield network out here that did some yield checks last month, and we're looking at about 60% of a crop. Tip back is very, well, some of the worst I've seen, I guess, in my 40 years of doing this business. And my concern is that we're going to end up with, I think, a lot of guys driving by at 50 mile an hour going, oh, that's a pretty nice cob out there. And then you start pulling the husk back, and all of a sudden you realize that a third of the cob or 25% of the cob isn't filled out at the end. So it's going to be, and the kernel depth is not very deep at all either.
When you say kernel depth, what do you mean?
What's causing that? I think it's just dry weather. We didn't get good, pollination was off with tip back, and then with the moisture we had, the kernels that did form are just not very deep. They didn't get the depth or the height that they normally would get. So there's going to be, my hope is that we're going to gain some test weight out of that, but I guess we'll know better in a month or 6 weeks. And saying that, some of these full season varieties that we grow down here this last week have really started to turn, especially if they didn't get fungicide on them. There's some fields that I'm a little concerned about. We put fungicide on everything, high-end DLX, and it helped out quite a bit, but I think the drought finally took its toll on a lot of these fields. So harvest is going to be early this year on the corn crop, and we're not expecting stellar yields at this point, not in this part of the province.
So that adds up to, given some of the probably the input load, I could imagine, not necessarily a year that we would say the income statement's going to be in the black on some of this corn then.
Yeah, I think we're already guaranteeing ourselves we're going to get a crop insurance situation on our corn crop. We, as I mentioned earlier, we finished our navy beans on Saturday. I'm about 20% under my guarantee on this, so their crop insurance claim also. Fortunately, we have that. Soybeans, I guess we just started our first field a couple hours ago, and right now my monitor's not fully calibrated yet, but just got feeling going on here. I think we'll be a borderline insurance claim on our soybeans this year. We only grow IP, food grade beans, natto, and tofu beans. So they're not really top end yielders to begin with, so our guarantee reflects that also. But at the end of the day, beans need some rain in August and July if they're going to put out. They're short. Quality seems to be good. Just we're also going to lose on the moisture a little bit, the weight there. We're harvesting 10.5% beans right now. Dry for us is 13. Although with the IPs, they like to see them around 14 often. But in these conditions we're dealing with this season, we just don't have that luxury when they drop 3 or 4 points percent a day. When
you look ahead to 26, do you feel more optimistic, assuming trendline yield for you? Obviously, production is part of the equation. So obviously, we have to be optimistic that 26 we're going to get back to normal production, if that's the right word. But saying that, we still haven't got the market prices we're used to seeing in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think we got to see some movement happening there. The IP premiums just came out by one of my dealers this past week, and they're the same as last year. So I was kind of hoping we'd see a bit of a bump up in that because of, quote, inflation, but they're holding their own. So I guess we'll remain to see what the others do if they make some adjustments to the growing season, the contracting season. But that's news in the future. Yeah. Yeah. I know you're doing a lot of work in some of the IP and edibles. Any discussion about what that's going to potentially look like next year? I think there's clearly what's happening with cost of production in Ontario here with fertilizer, other inputs. Machinery costs are obscene, but I think that's just a worldwide phenomenon right now. There's a lot of adjusting going on there, and I don't think it's for the positive at the grower level, but producers are going to do what they have to do. I know where capital plans are cut right back. One thing I would suggest getting to next year is we're used to seeing food inflation. Look what the beef industry is going through right now, our livestock industry, and kudos to them. They deserve that fully. But our turn needs to happen also, especially on the food grade side. Currently, we've been very stagnant on the edible bean side, but on the soybean side, I met with some buyers last week at Penn Outdoor Farm Show from Japan, mainly on the tofu side again, and I think part of the problem is these guys get very used to a certain variety, and my concern is that those varieties are dated now when it comes to the agronomic package.
So the one we're into right now, it's a second year of production of a new tofu variety. I think we need to get our buyers on board to realize that farmers need to make a dollar in this business too, and either they give us some newer varieties that maybe handle stress a lot better and still have the characteristics they need, and we start to phase out some of these ones that have been around for 20, 25 years.
Yeah. Steve, one of the questions I wanted to ask all the farmers here today is Parliament has returned. Everybody's back in Ottawa. What do you want to see from an agriculture perspective, Parliament, to focus on?
A couple of things. More domestic to Ontario here is our Ministry of Transportation has become extremely onerous to growers that run commercial vehicles or highway semi-trucks on the road. The safety inspection rules have changed drastically the last 3 years. And the cost of tripling a trailer that maybe only gets a few thousand kilometers a year on it is more than tripled. And the highway trucks are the same way. So I'd like to see some exemptions there on farm-plated vehicles, on the annual safety inspections and licensing that's required for that, because we are having a hard time finding qualified drivers. We have people that are familiar with it, but I think it's a time and a place right now in the transportation industry, and we're caught in the crossfire, or we're dealing with consequences of an overregulated environment that we didn't create the problem. I guess federally, the Parliament, you started a big question with federally Parliament. What I'd like to see is an acknowledgement that we have some serious issues with weather this year. And I'm not going to say climate change. I've dealt with drought before, but our business risk management programs are not keeping up to our current cost of production on things that are totally outside of our control. Equipment, fertilizer tariffs. We still have that darn fertilizer tariff with Russian fertilizer. And it's extremely frustrating knowing that the fertilizer I'm applying is, and I'm going to be blunt here, shipped into the U.S. from Russia, transshipped into Canada, and the tariff is not applying to it, but we're paying freight into the U.S. northeastern seaboard, cross rail or truck into Ontario, and then we're applying it. So we're still using Russian fertilizer, just that the inflated cost of it is absolutely ridiculous. So we need to get rid of that. The second thing is, as I mentioned earlier, we need to level the playing field a little bit. We've got trade injury. I really feel for the soybean growers out in the west, or the canola growers out in the west. We've dealt with that on our soybean crop with China in the past too, with the tariffs. And the last thing that farmers want is another loan. Absolutely. I'm a believer in the APP program, but that is not a solution to the EV tariffs that have created the Chinese tariffs on canola and our egg production here. So there is a precedent in the European Trade Agreement when that occurred, when we signed off on that, where our friends with supply management got grants, donations, whatever you want to call it, but cash in hand to the tune of billions of dollars. And for so-called trade injury, and we can debate that another day how serious it was, but the bottom line is they got debts. We've got trade injury, and we're being told we need to get loans. I don't believe that's the right answer. We need to get that one fixed ASAP. And part of that would include in Ontario here, having the federal government contribute its equal or proportionate share to our risk management program in Ontario. Currently, that's fully funded by Ontario and producers themselves through premiums. And we've done our own studies at Grain Farmers of Ontario, which I've read, that show that the U.S. farmer with the Trump bucks and what's happening down there, we're at a disadvantage in Ontario to the tune of $125 to $170 an acre. And if we're going to level playing field with tariffs and so on, then we need to address those issues ASAP. And that will go a long way to mitigating some of the drought stress, production risk, and everything else that we're dealing with right now. The stress is pretty unbelievable in farm country.
Great stuff, Steve. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here today, and good luck with the rest of harvest, okay?
Okay, thanks, Sean. And appreciate your time always. And so if I rant on a little bit, but that's what happens when I'm in the combine, and then the day and age we have autos here. So,
yeah, great stuff. I really appreciate it. We'll be back with more of the Farm Rapid Fire brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada right after this.
It is time for today's product spotlight. Jen Dale, product manager with Proven Canola Seed. What are the top priorities for the Proven brand when you're developing these new canola hybrids?
It really comes down to three things: yield, disease resistance, and the harvestability, flexibility.
What can growers dig into, look for when they're planning their seed purchases this fall and, of course, planning for the spring seeding season?
We have three new hybrids that we're really excited about for this 2026 season. PV662 LCM. It's a Liberty Link multi-genic clubroot, ideal for those high-pressure clubroot areas of northern Alberta. Where we move into the NTAC technology, the PV663 LCN combines the clubroot resistance with NTAC. Again, is a great fit for any of those straight-cut acres across Western Canada. And then also PV664 LCN. It's a full-season option with both clubroot and blackleg resistance. Again, with that guarantee of the NTAC that you know that it's going to stand for your harvest needs. Best place to get any of the hybrid information is provenseed.ca.
Soil health is under pressure, but real solutions start below the surface. Black Earth offers a full suite of humic solutions, from high-purity granules to powder, liquid, and soluble formulations, all powered by pure Humulite. Formulated for performance, backed by consistency, trusted by growers worldwide from one of the world's rarest reserves. Grow stronger with the power of Black Earth Humulite. Learn more from Mine to Market at blackearth.com.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio for the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Next, let's go to Sundown, Manitoba. And we're talking to Randy Tkachyk. How are we doing today, Randy?
Doing really good. The sun is shining and temperature is comfortable, and the leaves are turning color.
Yeah, okay. Is fall's kind of in the air?
It is. It's just kind of preparing for winter now. It's kind of got to get the pastures are starting to dwindle down. Just had some bulls leave here, and it's another season.
Can you believe some of these beef prices?
No, they're good. It's very surprising to see them. I would have seen that crystal ball 2 years ago, and I just thought that prices, cow-calf pairs were running at about $3,500. I thought that was a high, but now I don't even know where those prices are in the cow-calf pairs. But cull cows are just bringing that alone. It's good to see. It's about time.
So. So we've been talking a lot about, how we got here and what it means for now. What about the way forward? Like, how does it impact your decision making and planning when you think about your ranch in, 26, 27, 2030?
Well, I'll look at what is my environment allowing me to grow here. So we're mostly grass. We can grow crops here, but I pretty well operate the farm myself here, so it's not easy getting hired help. The thing is, I still want to have inventory when these cattle prices are where they're at. It's even though we are getting good prices for them. So for cull cows and also calves, for the heifer retention, I want to keep them around because, I think this is an opportunity to get rid of some of those mature cows that, give you a little bit of issues in the springtime. And, I want to be on this ride here for still a few more years. And, for things to change much on the farm here, still going to retain heifers here because I know that the genetics that we do have, and it will continue to help us pull through. When those prices go down, and now there's an opportunity to pay some debt off too.
Yeah. Do you do like advanced grazing or rotational grazing? What's your grazing program look like?
Yeah, we are a rotational grazing system here. We will have grass right till snowfall, and something different this year that I'm practicing is I planted a service crop or a polycrop, 50 different species, and we're going to cut that down probably in the next few days, and we're going to swath graze that. That's something that I haven't tried before. I hope it's not a fail. But in order to learn some things, you got to maybe learn from those failures. But I think it's going to work out okay. It depends how much snow we get. I know there's been other beef producers doing that in Canada. I think it's so just leaning off from their experience.
Yeah, I know a few people that have done some swath grazing and have really liked the practice. On the rotational grazing, how often are you moving the animals?
It all depends on the growth of the season. Earlier on in springtime into summer, when we have a lot of sunshine, I'm moving them every second day, and then later on now, I'm maybe moving them every fourth or fifth day. It all depends on how much grass growth we have going on there. And usually my pastures will only see the cattle twice. Sometimes they only see them once a year. And that next year, that once a year is we can come back next year and we'll have some pretty good grass coming there that, it'll hit that 2 cycle rotation for that year.
How do you make sure they have access to water? How does that work?
Pipeline.
Oh.
All of our pastures have pipeline. The water crop is in the middle of could be in a quarter section. So we'll either dig it in with a pasture plow, and that's been very easy infrastructure. It's done that for a number of years, and you don't have to worry about cattle going into ponds, and also it's healthier for the water intake on those animals, and also it keeps you away from foot rot.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very cool. Pasture conditions, how are they heading into fall here?
Oh, they're great. It's I was getting a little bit nervous into June because we were really getting dry. As of June 28th till now, we're over 9 inches of rain, and everything is still green. We got a little bit of a touch of frost here, but no, pastures are looking really good. Normally, we'll have a slump in last week of July into the second week of August, and this year we didn't have that heat. We had the moisture, and things just kept on chugging right along.
Nice. Hey, one of the questions I wanted to ask all of our farmers and ranchers this week is, as Parliament returns, what's something that you would like to see discussed or focused on as parliamentarians get back to work?
As long as we have market access into our closest neighbors to the south, and I do remember it being closed one time, and that was not fun. And so it's don't forget about the rural community.
Yeah, rural economic development, I think, is it's a lot of times we don't think of it as an agricultural issue, but it's an agricultural issue.
Well, it's important to have something that will create a dollar instead of, we can have some systems out there. I'll give you an example of a small town here. It's got the school and it's got the hospital, but it's not really, it's government funded. But when you have the welding shop there, they're creating a dollar, and, you have some of the livestock barns that are around as well. They also create a dollar. So, that's very important. And, it just starts from the bottom and keeps on going up. It's, helps the RM and so on.
Yeah. Well put. Well, Randy, thanks so much for joining us here today on RealAg Radio for the Farmer Rapid Fire. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of your fall work.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We'll be right back on RealAg Radio, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, right after this.
Maizex Seeds is 100% focused on Canadian farmers because Canadian agriculture deserves a national seed company rooted right here at home. Known for high-performance grain, silage, and grazing corn, Maizex is now bringing soybeans. And, new for 2026, Maizex canola to farmers in Western Canada. Maizex is committed to helping you get more from every acre, field by field. Crush it with Maizex by visiting Maizex.com today to connect with your local Maizex Seeds representative.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is a video series that showcases the latest in canola research and production agronomy. Learn from some of the best at your own pace through quick and timely producer-focused videos available on our YouTube channel. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is the quickest way to keep up to date on all the latest in canola production. Boost your canola IQ with the Canola School, brought to you by BASF, and visit canolaschool.com.
Built on over 100 years of seed innovation and unwavering commitment to farmers, Pioneer 100 Series canola hybrids deliver a step change in yield performance and agronomic traits. This isn't just better canola, it's different canola. Pioneer 100 Series. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more today. Up next on Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Let's go to Rosthern, Saskatchewan, and we're talking to Matt Enns. Matt, how are we doing?
Pretty good, Shaun. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Okay, so you into harvest here? What's going on?
Yes, we're right in the middle of it. We had a bit of a rain since last Thursday. So right now I'm just actually looking at some standing canola from my combine seat and just deciding if I want to pull out my feed accelerator 5 times today or what. But we'll get into it pretty quick here.
What are your expectations on yield on that canola?
Well, it's not the first canola we've done, so I've got a bit of a sense of it, but it'll be, I think, pretty reasonable. The field where I'm at here, I would maybe guess at 60 bushels an acre, and that's a bit better than we've seen the last 3-4 years, just because of dryness. But it's similar to what I think we would like to expect, or say a 10-year average kind of thing, something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. I seems like there's a lot of farms kind of in that same vicinity of sentiment, which I would say is probably a little bit above where the expectations were earlier in the year. Is that fair, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. Like, we had, just like a lot of guys across Saskatchewan, we had a really dry start to the year. And so, looking into May, June, you're like, here we go again. It's going to be very dry. And I think some of the cereals, especially earlier seeded stuff, did, get stressed out and maybe limited its yield a little bit. But, at that point, we were definitely kind of feeling like, if it doesn't rain in the next 2-3 weeks, we could be in for a bit of a wreck. So, yeah, like, fast forwarding 2 months, everything did really well compared to what it could have done in the middle of June.
Yeah. How about the cereals? How are they performing?
Well, wheat continues to kind of impress me. Whereas canola, like, my max yield expectation hasn't really changed in a decade. Wheat just does fantastic. Especially certain varieties, they seem to handle maybe a little bit of the dryness better. But the wheat really did well compared to where we thought it would a couple months ago. So yeah, wheat was great, and then we did some interesting barley varieties, a couple of niche varieties, and barley rebounded a little bit too. So it was better than it's been for the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, you don't have, in terms of your, some of the things you do on the farm, you don't have a problem with doing some niche stuff, do you?
Yeah, so I think last time we visited at the Saskatoon Berries game, I had just come back from China. And then this May, we went to Japan, and we ended up making a couple of interesting deals. Mostly it kind of works through the barley side because of the maker's malt and things, people we know through there. But we've got some food barley going out there, and just things that most people wouldn't have tried before. And it's small amounts, like it's, a quarter here, a half quarter or a half section there. But it's fun.
First time in Japan, or you been there before?
First time.
Okay, so what were your impressions? Because I have a friend that goes there quite a bit with work, and he just talks about it. It's so cool, and just encourages everybody to go visit. What were your impressions?
Oh, I was impressed, thoroughly impressed. Really fantastic culture, like a lot of hospitality. Everything is orderly and respectful. Even downtown Tokyo got 40 million people, and it didn't feel like chaotic or rushed or that you're getting bumped around the sidewalk. It's just everyone gets off the train, and then everyone comes on the train. Everything's on time. Yeah, it was really interesting.
And what he describes to me is like when we talk about Japan being a high quality customer for Canadian or American commodities, you really get a sense of that when you're on the ground. There is a strong appreciation for quality in Japan.
Oh, 100%. And that's why I really like having the chance to deal with them, because I think, that's something we can make a step forward on, is quality for them. But like, for instance, we toured a number of processing factories, and even just to walk in the door, like you're changing into new shoes and an outfit, and then your outfit's getting lint rolled, and then you go through 2 washes and an airlock door, and everything is very pristine. And you could see it through their, even as a consumer, like they're not worried about eating raw eggs that are domestic, and they're not worried about raw beef, that kind of thing. They're very much in like a trusting relationship with their food system, and I think it comes from the processors being very precise. So yeah, it was really interesting to see that for sure.
Oh, cool. You gonna have some time to do your fall weed control, or you leave it till spring?
Yeah, we should have some time. We've done a lot of fall weed work over the last probably 4 or 5 years now, I guess, where we do some spreading actually, and we combine it with some slow release fertility, some sulfur products, just to kind of keep those out of our drill in the spring and make those spring logistics a little bit easier. And it's a touch more pricey for a program, but we've really been able to get really great control and avoid. One of the things that we do through that is we kind of avoid spraying for wild oats in our cereal crops in crop now. And so there's a few things there that I think, can help you tweak yield up just a little bit. So we're pretty invested in making sure that happens every fall.
Yeah, for sure. Any other big plans here for fall time on the farm?
Well, just get the rest of this very green strawed canola off is the primary concern. And then, the other thing that I've kind of found myself working on is just figuring out where to deliver grain. We didn't really see a lot of awesome opportunity, like through the early part of the growing season, May, June. And then of course there's that production risk vibe as well. Kind of, are we actually making a crop here? So by this time we probably usually would have 3,000-4,000 tons off the farm into the commercial system. And we're under half of that now. And, those opportunities that didn't look very good 3 months ago are worse now. So it's just trying to figure out creative ways to make some deliveries and make some sales.
When you're trying to combine that green strawed canola, there's always like that, oh yeah, I can go a little faster, or, I could, okay, I got through that one. And then you get to, it's just like, it's the plug combine is the worst.
Oh man, three times yesterday I was under the combine digging out my feed accelerator. Yeah, not very fun. Chapped up hands.
Well, and it's one of those things where you're like trying, you want to be as productive as possible, right? But it's like there's like this obviously huge like diminishing return if you plug it. You've really set yourself back because it takes a while to plug, to unplug it depending on how bad you do it. But it's like this daily fight, especially when we get into September. Yeah. August not as much, but September when we start to get a little bit more humidity in the air as fall sets in, it's a daily battle.
Oh, and you're just like, are the neighbors able to do? Like, what's the humidity at, man? We're always like, I come by it honestly because my dad is still very much like this at 70 plus, but we're not exactly on the patient end of the spectrum. We're on the pushing it end of the spectrum, and we know we can, aerate things and deal with things. But if you don't get it off and something happens, you kind of kick yourself, right? So we're always probably going to be pushers, I'd say, and pay for it once in a while.
Hey, Matt, at least you're self-aware.
Well, sometimes.
Hey, quickly to finish up, Parliament has returned this week. What's something from an agriculture perspective you like to see be a bit of a focus in Ottawa as parliamentarians get back?
Oh, man. I mean, the list. Obviously, canola tariffs would be very, very high on the list. I think trade in general. I know we had our Premier Scott Moe out in Asia this last week, and I mean, reading a couple of things this morning, it sounds like that's a positive, right? Whether it's Vietnam saying they want to buy a little bit of canola meal, or creating just stronger relationships, showing that you invested in trade. I think that's a good thing. It's just amazing how many struggles we have to deal with, and then you're going to add policy or other things that you have just really no control of. I don't know. I think canola tariffs have to be the number one, and you guys do a good job about talking about that and all the other things that we could be working on. But I mean, the list could get pretty long if I don't know how long this segment is. But.
No, it's all good. Hey, Matt, thanks so much for joining us here today on the show, and all the best to you this harvest. Okay.
All right, appreciate it.
Hey, we'll be right back on RealAg Radio for the rest of the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada.
At Proven Seed, we know that farming in Western Canada doesn't just teach us, it shapes us. Here we face challenges with resilience, innovation, and grit born from decades of experience. We battle the conditions again and again because growing crops here isn't just what we do, it's who we are. We're raised to adapt just like you, with varieties grown specifically for your local conditions. Visit provenseed.ca/raised to adapt to hear our story.
Whether you're running a farm operation, in a career within an organization, starting your own business, looking for your dream job, operating a company in agri-food, or want to hone your overall life skills, this conference is for you. Celebrating over 10 years of bringing women in ag and food together, join the Advancing Women Conference in Niagara Falls on November 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Visit advancingwomenconference.ca for more information and to register.
Up next on the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. Let's go to Neerlandia, Alberta, and we've got Shane Strydhorst on the line. How are we doing today, Shane?
Not too bad. How are you doing, Sean?
Hey, pretty good. So, what are you doing? You're sitting in the combine. I'm between you and getting rolling here.
Yeah, just warming up the combine, and kind of hoping that today we can wrap things up if the next field that I get to is ready. But we'll see if the swath's dried enough in the last 10 days or not.
Wow. Like this could be the end of harvest today?
It could be the end of harvest for me, yes. Yeah, no, we've just had an amazing run of weather, just lots of hot, dry weather and hardly any rain delays of any significance. So it's just been a really, really busy time.
If you were to look at the 5 or 10 year average, this is ahead of normal pace, is it not?
Yeah, definitely ahead of normal pace as far as, calendar date to be finishing up. And, it's just been a great run, and it's been kind of fun, actually.
Well, you will have ample time to do some fall weed control.
Yeah, for sure. No, there's definitely going to be a little bit of that going on. We've got some Edge and some Avidex book to put on, and probably do a little bit of post-harvest spraying. And yeah, one thing about running around in the combine or the swather is the guy definitely sees where the weed escapes are and where we need some special attention.
So you're an analytical guy. How do you keep track of all that?
I guess I'm fortunate. My farm is small enough I can kind of keep track of most of it in my head. A pretty small farm, so you got a dozen fields or whatever. It's not that hard to keep track of things, but you have to keep some good notes in your head while you're moving along.
Yeah. Everybody has a different system that they roll with, right? And some people do like some through technology platforms like flagging or paper notes. I'm always worried about the paper notes; they fly out the wind. Out the window in the truck. But
Yeah.
But it is important. That's a really good point. A lot of times people talk about it from a sprayer perspective, right? Where it's like spraying is a good opportunity to get that bird's eye view of the crop and some of the issues you need to deal with. But the combine's that way as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is where you can see in the stubble, maybe you've got a few little Canada thistle patches that are going to get bigger next year that you want to deal with. And yeah, field margins are something that we always pay a little bit of special attention to. We have a small 3-point hitch sprayer that I try to run around just to make sure that, things like quackgrass and thistle don't try to creep in from the edges of the field too much. So usually I try to do my field margins every fall with that unit to keep those things under control.
What's your biggest problem weed you have to deal with?
I think this year it's looking for me and a lot of guys in the area like wild oats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we probably just have a lot of resistance issues, and we're kind of going to be leaning back on some of those old chemistries like Avidex that we used to overuse and then got away from a little bit. And there's a few more people every year around here that are doing some Avidex, some in the fall, quite a bit in the spring. And I kind of worry. I hope the guys don't try to tighten up their canola rotations any further just to try to get that extra little bit of weed control. But that's one of the ones that's kind of bugged me this year.
Yeah, and so that's different than the past couple of years, or just it's getting worse?
It probably depends a little bit on crop rotation, which crop is in a field in a given year, and a weed like that. Well, you don't really see it so much in canola maybe, but we had some wheat this year where probably there's some group 2 resistance. We should get some of that tested. And, of course, we're going to rotate to canola next year on a piece of property like that, and then probably barley the year following and use some Avidex with the barley in the following year. But, it's one of those things. And kind of like with the edge too, it just goes along with the crop rotation. So if we're going to put in a pulse crop, we try to put edge on in the fall. And, it's just another group, another one of those little hammers in the toolbox that we can use.
Shane, I worry all the time about having access to less tools. It's hard to bring new products to market. So we're reinventing how we use what's old is new again. But it's, the weeds just continue to advance on us.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we hate to think back to the days of all the tillage. I mean, that was one way of controlling a lot of weeds back in the day, and we don't really want to revert back to that. But one of the things that we're considering getting a little more creative with is, going back to some winter wheat again, or maybe trying some fall rye, some of those super competitive crops that just help our chemistries out just a little bit more in the spring, because it's pretty easy to see how effective the crop competition is to help your chemistries along.
Yeah, choke them out a little bit. That makes sense. Honestly, we got to use as many different things that are available to us, right? And that's kind of what a lot of growers are facing agronomically, for sure. Any other big fall projects on the farm?
Not too much. No more. Yeah, just the typical. Like I said, some heavy harrowing, some Avidex edge, and some field margins, and. I'm looking forward to next week. I think we're going to try to do the food grains harvest for the local project. So that's always kind of a fun community building event. Get a bunch of people out, and usually the equipment dealers provide some iron to help with the project. So it's always a good time and a great cause. How
many combines will show up sometimes?
I think typically we have half a dozen, but I mean we've had probably more than a dozen sometimes. It depends, on the crop this year. Canola, so it'll be toward the end. Most guys will be finished their own harvest, whereas a year like last year where it was barley, it's kind of at the beginning or the middle, and it was a little harder for people to get away, so you had a fewer units show up. But there's always enough people that pull out of their own field to show up for a couple hours one afternoon and get the job done.
Important that is, there's a lot of those food grains banks projects across the prairies, and they're very important. It's a very good cause, and everybody seems to just really step up and make it happen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, farmers were always all pitching in to get the seeding or spraying or harvesting done, and local truckers, they always chip in to haul it right off the field to the elevator. The elevator, I think, usually gives us a little bit of break on drying sometimes if we need. And and the equipment manufacturers are always bringing a couple of combines, and farmers always get excited to see, a new Series 11 or Class 11 combine show up and see one of those in action for the first time. So, and have the opportunity to operate it too.
Yeah, good point. Good point. One of the questions I wanted to ask all the farmers this week and is trying to get a sense of, with Parliament returning, a lot of issues to chat about. From an agriculture perspective, what's one top of mind for you that you hope that parliamentarians are going to focus on?
Yeah, one of the things that's been driving us crazy as farmers and as directors of commissions is, of course, the tariffs. And we've been urging the government for months to take action, to have meaningful dialogue so that we can sort out the tariff issues with China and get our canola moving there, and more pressing to get our peas moving there, because we've got a decent pea crop in the prairies and not a lot of places to send it. So that's kind of the big one that's bugging me.
Yeah, peas probably not getting the attention they should. Canola, and rightly so. Canola gets a lot of attention when it comes to some of the trade issues, but peas are probably a little bit understated in some of the impacts.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I mean, peas are more impacted yet than canola. I mean, China's a huge market for canola, but when you consider peas, we have India and China, and then there's everybody else. And we really need that market to get our product moving there again. And the only way that's going to happen, like I said, is to have meaningful dialogue with our government and China's government to find some middle ground or something between the tariffs we're applying to them and the retaliatory tariffs that they put on us.
Yeah, well put. Well, Shane, good luck finishing harvest today. Hope you all the best and some of that other fall work you got going on. So thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Sean.
Hey, we'll be right back on RealAg Radio to finish up the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada, right after this.
Protect your anhydrous ammonia application earlier than normal this fall. Defend against potential losses and protect your bottom line with new Centuro A-Pro Nitrogen Stabilizer. Patented active ingredient pronitridine offers agronomically effective protection where it matters most, below ground. The new concentrated formulation lowers application rates. Start early with Centuro A-Pro as part of your nitrogen management plan. Contact your local retailer or visit centuro.ca for more information today.
It's summertime, and you've got a lot of important decisions to make when it comes to your corn crop. Let the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com help guide you through those big decisions with input from leading experts in the field. If it's spray timing, disease identification, or any other field issue, the Corn School's got you covered. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
It's time to finish up the Farmer Rapid Fire, brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. And right now we're actually from Pioneer. We're joined by Holly Loucas, who's based out of, well, there's no Eiffel Tower there, but it is called Paris, Ontario. How are we doing today, Holly?
We're good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Good. Is there a famous landmark in Paris, Ontario?
We are at the junction of two rivers. So the Grand River and the Nith River meet in downtown Paris. And we are called the prettiest little town in Ontario.
Seems fitting to me. Okay, so earlier on the show, we had Steve Twynstra from Ailsa Craig, and he talked about 60% of normal moisture, some tip back, lack of kernel depth on the corn, a little bit concerned about the potential yield, and just trying to live to fight another day is kind of how I'm summarizing that. What are you seeing in your travels, Holly?
I would echo those exact comments. I would say we're probably less moisture. I didn't look at the numbers, but I'd say we're at least 50% of our normal moisture. And heat. We've had a lot of heat. I think for the entire month of August, most days, we were in that at least high 28, 29, a lot of days over 30. So when you combine the really, really dry, no rain with excessive heat, it's kind of created an interesting environment this year for our crops.
Agronomically, are there concerns about quick dry down when we've got these kind of conditions?
Yes, yeah, that's one of the factors. And we're just so dry, the air sucks the moisture out of everything in soil. There's no moisture anywhere to keep it. But we're also just that high heat combined with, a lot of sunlight and dry soils. We haven't had any disease pressure to speak of, no white mold, even root rots that were around in June, they just dried up and the beans were able to carry on. And then disease pressure in corn, minimal leaf diseases, tar spot. It's showing up. We're getting some pressure. So we'll have residue in the soil for 2026, but it's really not taking a yield penalty at all.
Yeah, you think about...
We've had insects. Lots of insects.
Yeah, so where have the main insect concerns been? And just from an insect type, I wasn't meaning geographically, but type.
Seen a lot more Western mean gutworm than I had thought was around, but corn rootworm is one of the main ones. Seeing a lot of beetles kind of in the August window, but then a lot of late emergers, which typically are the ones that are partially resistant as well. So those would be the two that come to mind. In August we had other things, but yeah, those are the two big ones on corn.
Yeah, and from the disease standpoint, last year so much talk about tar spot, where and in the couple years previous, there we talked a lot about it. Maybe didn't see it to the extent that we had sort of thought, or which is good. Last year we did see it.
Yep. This
year, of course, we talked about it, but it just shows again. You got to have the conditions for a disease like that to show itself.
Yeah, I've been out looking. You can find the occasional spot around. 3 weeks ago, you could find an occasional spot here and there, but it didn't develop. It wasn't in those 2 week cycles where, thousands and thousands of spores were just infecting the crops and the plants that are out there. So, my biggest message to growers is it's still a disease, and there's going to be enough in the residue that we need to pay attention to it in 2026 as well.
Yeah, when we think about our hybrid selection, we have this human tendency to pick hybrids or varieties for last year's problems, right? And so we got to make sure that we're not out of the woods when it comes to tar spot.
Yeah, and our biggest thing is make sure if it's your high value crop, make sure you get a fungicide on. So I don't want people to skimp on fungicide next year, even though commodity prices are low and inputs prices are still where they are. So it's not something you want to skimp on, because we don't want to have a 2024 problem again.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been hearing about is, have you seen or heard about some of the red colored tingy soybeans? What's going on there?
I have. So we had a pretty good rain across southern Ontario about 2 weeks ago, a nice 1 inch, 1.5 inch. Thought it was going to finish off the beans really well. And fast forward to the last few days, maybe the last week, we started to see the beans turn a purplish color. So it's just mainly anthocyanin accumulation based on all that sugar from that rain being in the leaves. And because we were dry, there's not as many pods on the plant. There's not as many beans per pod, pods per node, all that kind of thing. There just wasn't anywhere for that sugar to go. And some of the beans, our wheat beans, were already, getting close to being finished and just weren't able to utilize those sugars. So they sit in the leaves, turns purple with anthocyanin production, and just has a hue over top of the field that similar to purple corn in spring, right? Just later in season. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah. Plants do interesting
from a physiology standpoint.
Yeah. If you're a plant nerd, you're super excited. Yes. I don't mean to offend you, but yeah,
I am a plant nerd, 100%. I go, look how cool,
and a very proud one at that.
yes, I am.
Yeah, absolutely. What else have you seen out in the countryside?
So the last thing I would want to mention is, we've been dry, we've been hot, we've been dry. The corn is starting, depending on your dryness level, we've had really variable precipitation, right? One field got 1/2 inch, field across the road got 2/10. So just the tops of the plants are starting to cannibalize. Seen a bit of premature death in corn as well, but just mainly, the plants are just running out of moisture. And then that ear is triggering, kernels are shallow, they're full, the ear is triggering to the plant that it's done. So my fear is we've cannibalized a lot of the stalks. So I would pay attention to your stalks, pay attention to your droughty fields, and try and prevent as much harvest loss as you can by good, harvest practices, and making sure you're setting up the combine stuff ready to do that. But prioritize fields so we don't have weak stalks and get a big rainstorm or windstorm.
Holly, thanks a lot for joining us here today on the Farm Rapid Fire.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Before I let you go, Holly, did you know that Pioneer is going to be 100 years old?
I might have heard that.
You may have heard of
Yes.
that. Well, hey, today's show is brought to you by Pioneer Seeds Canada. And I want to talk to you about Pioneer 100 series, the highest yielding Pioneer brand canola hybrids ever. This isn't just better canola, it's different canola. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more. Thanks everybody for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. We'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. And welcome to the bonus here. It's time for the top ag news stories of the day. Hopefully you enjoyed today's Farmer Rapid Fire. And big thanks again to Pioneer Seeds Canada for being the sponsor of the Farmer Rapid Fire. We so appreciate it. And yeah, at the end there, you heard 100 years of Pioneer, which is unbelievable. Make sure you check out Pioneer's website, talk to your local rep, and just, ask about their great lineup of products, of course, corn, soybeans, as well as, of course, canola. Okay, let's get to the top ag news stories of the day here on the show. There's lots to go through here today. We're going to try to get through it as quickly as we can. I want to start off the top by talking about Mexico and Canada. So Carney is going to sign a new strategic partnership on trade and security with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum during a 2-day visit. He's joined by a major Canadian business delegation, including leaders from the Bank of Nova Scotia, the CPKC, TC Energy, and ATCO. The agreement is not designed to expand trade between the two countries. Already, they are top 5 partners, and to boost cooperation on organized crime, drug and gun trafficking, and human smuggling. Both Canada and Mexico are also looking to diversify beyond the U.S. market as President Trump's tariffs continue to reshape North American trade. The partnership will include collaboration on infrastructure, agriculture, health, and emergency preparedness, and could see Canada invest in Mexico's new ports and shipping corridors that bypass the United States. So how is all this different than the USMCA? Because that's a major question that I had. We already have a trade deal in place that includes Canada and Mexico. Officials say this is a new pact that is about going beyond tariff rules and creating direct bilateral opportunities that reduce reliance on Washington. And what message does it send to the U.S.? Simply put, Canada and Mexico are signaling that they're ready to work closer together, with or without American support, as they prepare for a contentious renegotiation of the USMCA in 2026. I'll also add to this, I wonder if there's some sort of coincidence in the timing. This is when President Trump is in the UK for his big royal visit and discussions with Prime Minister Starmer. That feels a little bit too obvious. And I think I use the word signal. This is a little bit of a signal, I think, to the U.S. that these two countries are willing to work together. And hey, listen, they have not always been on the same page. You think back to the springtime, Premier Ford of Ontario was like, forget about Mexico. I've always wondered why Canada and Mexico don't do more trade. Sometimes NAFTA and the USMCA, CUSMA has felt like Canada-US, US-Mexico. And there obviously is a lot of business that can be done between these two countries that both border the United States. And as I said there, both countries looking to move closer to working together, but also getting an agreement with the U.S. as well. There's a new report from the Canadian Climate Institute that says emissions stayed at 8.5% below 2005 levels in 2024. Essentially unchanged from the year before. The think tank warns that on the current trajectory, Canada will only cut emissions by 20 to 25% by 2030, far short of the legislated target of 40 to 45%. Insert shock face here. Oil and gas remains the main driver, rising nearly 2% and now accounting for nearly a third of the national total. While electricity generation has seen deep cuts, progress in other sectors has slowed. The report says weakened federal and provincial climate policies, including reduced carbon pricing and paused EV mandates, have stalled momentum. Of course, we have seen the current government in Canada take a bit of a diversion away from being climate first on absolutely everything. Prime Minister Carney has pitched Canada as a superpower in both conventional and clean energy, but his government has also moved to fast-track major industrial products like LNG expansion and new mines through a major projects office. We've been talking about farm profitability a lot on the show. U.S. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins told the Financial Times the idea is to create a dedicated stream of aid for farmers using money collected from tariffs rather than relying on yearly budget appropriations. She says the goal is to give producers more stability as they face market volatility, export disruptions, and ongoing trade conflicts. The plan is still in development, and Rollins says consultations with farm groups and Congress will come before any rollout. But one hurdle is very clear here. Congress has to act. Current rules make it difficult for the administration to simply redirect tariff receipts, which normally flow into the Section 32 programs. Rollins defended Trump's tariff strategy, blaming the Biden administration for a sharp decline in America's agricultural trade balance, while U.S. farm exports hit record highs under Biden. Imports grew even faster, leaving the sector with a $50 billion deficit. Rollins argued the Trump team is restoring a more aggressive trade vision, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, himself a soybean and corn farmer. He owns some land in North Dakota. He's leading talks with China. Now, remember here that one of the reasons for, my understanding is, one of the reasons for the widening agricultural trade deficit has to do with things like tequila, avocados, and other fruits and vegetables coming out of Mexico. Soybean growers remain on edge. Of course, Beijing has slapped tariffs of up to 34% on U.S. soybeans, shifting much of its demand to Brazil. Rollins says new support package would be informed by lessons from the $28 billion aid package plan that was launched during the first trade war in 2019. All of this raises important questions for Congress. Okay, can tariff revenues legally be redirected into a permanent farm aid fund? 2, how will lawmakers balance farmer support with concerns that tariffs also raise costs for consumers and manufacturers? Also, think about how the impact that those farmer support programs would have on something like the price of fertilizer. And 3, what happens if China continues to shift away from U.S. soybeans, even with this aid in place? There was an article I also read this morning about, because Argentina has been exporting so many soybeans out of the country to China, their domestic crushers are sitting 30% idle. It's crushing them. Play on words there. Rural banks also are sounding alarms about deteriorating farm balance sheets, especially as rising interest rates over recent years have made refinancing harder. Young farmers and smaller operations are particularly vulnerable, with many reporting they are delaying equipment purchases or cutting back on hired labor. We've talked about these Association of Equipment Manufacturer numbers. New combine sales in the U.S. year-to-date as of the end of August are down like 40% compared to 2024. There is a new National Corn Growers Association survey that reveals that 80% of U.S. corn farmers believe the nation's farm economy is either already in crisis or on the verge of one, underscoring deep financial strain across the countryside. Starting October 14th, the U.S. Trade Representative will levy charges on Chinese-built and Chinese-operated ships calling at American ports. Now, this is a deep and complex topic. The deadline, like I said, is October 14th, so a little bit less than a month. There is obviously the phone call on Friday between President Trump and President Xi. Mainly that's about TikTok, but there is rumors floating around that they are making progress on some sort of a trade deal, and whether China would be interested in negotiating away maybe this threat of these additional fees on Chinese-made ships, even if they were operated, say, by Sweden. If it was a Chinese-made ship, it would face the fee. So this is a complex one. Industry sources estimate costs could run $125 to $300 per container at the Port of Los Angeles. That's a big deal, since nearly a third of LA ship calls last year would have faced the top tier. The rules include a 6-month grace period, limits on how often a ship can be charged, and exemptions for smaller vessels. Okay, so here's a key piece of this. In fact, ships under 80,000 deadweight tons, like those used for most soybean exports, won't pay the new fee. That means U.S. farm exports largely avoid the brunt of the policy, though larger grain and energy carriers will still be exposed. Also, I would add to that, I think there's going to be some exposure when it comes to meat exports, because I had looked at some of the data and it's not exactly crystal clear, but there's a significant amount of chilled reefer space that would be on a larger ship that would be over that 80,000 hurdle. So we're going to try to look into more here. Meanwhile, Congress is weighing a separate bill to expand the powers of the Federal Maritime Commission to investigate Chinese carriers for possible market manipulation. The bipartisan measure would raise funding for the agency, but critics say staffing shortages could weaken enforcement. So there's more to come on that one. The Taurus Group of companies has announced major leadership changes and new hires as it looks to expand its footprint in crop nutrition and agronomic support. Claude Sander, one of the group's managing partners, is stepping into a full-time role as president of Active Agri-Science. That company develops seed primers, foliar nutrients, and nitrogen stabilizers, while its sister firm, Taurus Agricultural Marketing, handles distribution and retail support. Taurus leaders say the move will strengthen innovation and international growth, particularly in markets like Australia, where its products are already showing results. The group also promoted Aquina Clanet to Chief Strategy Officer, added agronomist Eric Persecki for Northern Saskatchewan, and hired Tricia Neaston to support operations and marketing. President Craig Davison says the changes are about alignment and continuity, ensuring Taurus can deliver science-based agronomic solutions to farmers well into the future. The Canadian Cattle Young Leaders Program has named its 16 finalists for the 25-26 year. The finalists were chosen at the annual selections competition during the Canadian Cattle Association semi-annual meeting in Quebec. Contestants from across the country rotated through roundtable discussions on topics ranging from succession planning and public trust to technology and international trade. Alberta government is reviewing new dam and reservoir projects to secure its province's future water supply. The province has hired WSP Canada to study the feasibility of building a reservoir on the Belly River in Cardston County, as well as a possible upgrade to the Waterton and St. Mary's headwork system. Officials say the projects could improve water security, provide drought and flood protection, and support agriculture communities and ecosystems. Agriculture and Irrigation Minister R.J. Segerson said the review is part of a whole government approach to safeguard water supplies for farmers, ranchers, and growing communities. WSP Canada says it's proud to lead the study, which will take several years to complete. And finally, the Grain Growers of Canada is urging Ottawa to prioritize upgrades to the Port of Vancouver and its rail links, warning that the country's trade reliability is at risk. This is coming off of last week's announcement, I think, on those infrastructure projects that Prime Minister Carney was really hyping up. The group says that more than half of Canada's grain exports, about 35 million every day, move through the port, making it the nation's most important agricultural trade hub. But the key rail connections that carry those exports are aging and they're strained. The Second Narrows Rail Bridge, built in 1969, and the New Westminster Rail Bridge, dating back to 1904, are full at capacity and have no backups if they were to fail. Connect this concern about rail infrastructure in the Port of Vancouver and tie it back to what if the U.S. does move forward October 14th with these penalties on Chinese-made ships? Does the Port of Vancouver all of a sudden get a lot busier with American soybeans coming out of North Dakota from the PNW because it's cheaper to go through Vancouver than it is through the Port of Seattle or L.A.? These are things that, I think are a big question mark at this point. But of course, Port of Vancouver and the rail infrastructure to that port are always something that farm groups are pushing for and asking pretty stiff questions about. If you have any feedback on today's show, we'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. And because we're talking about the top bag news story of the day, if there's a story that we missed, please send me an email and share it with me. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. Hope you enjoyed the bonus segment. Cheers, everybody.